At the minute, guys, it's almost impossible to deny the fact that the cost of living crisis is actually hitting very hard, at least here in the UK, and I think everybody is feeling the effects of it. Now, it's mainly spoken about in reference to older people, people middle aged, maybe even slightly older, but obviously people younger than that as well. I want to give a different angle and a different perspective on it today, as I want to talk about the effects of the cost of living crisis on the younger people, the real younger people, people my age, and people generally just starting out in life. So, for those that don't know, I'm 21 years old, and obviously at 21, it's an interesting period in life. There's a lot of fun, but generally there's a lot of challenge. You're expected to start finding a proper job, you're expected to start a career, and you want to do things on your own, like having your own car and perhaps your own place to live. Now, obviously, the cost of living crisis is hitting everybody. Interest rates being high affects mortgages and also people's credit and debts, and rent prices increase constantly. But even with that being said, imagine the position for a lot of younger people, right? Because it's one thing not being able to pay your rent, and that's terrible, or struggling to pay your rent. But I think what we're going to be seeing in the next couple of years is probably a worse knock on effect for the future generation. Because we're now looking at a generation of people who, whether it is the case or isn't, believe that there's no chance of them buying a property, see the fact that they can't get a graduate job that pays very much. And of course, if you've watched the channel for a while, and if you are interested in different ideas, you will understand the concept of going down alternative routes. I speak about that a lot on this channel, right? You can be a business owner, you can be a digital nomad, as it's called. You can do a lot of stuff. You can even have a good job, but just in a different field, right? Because there's a lot of jobs that people are not going into that subsequently have to pay a lot, like being a plumber or even like a truck driver or something. So there are opportunities. But with how many people go to university and aim to have a career in the traditional sense, it seems to be universally the case amongst young people. And of course, I have a lot of friends that are around my age, and I know a lot of people, and I watch a lot of stuff on the internet myself, and I get a lot of comments. It seems to be almost universally the case that young people who are looking for that level of social mobility, at least here in the UK, people who maybe like myself started with not very much, and had to basically come up by themselves, and are now getting to the point where they're looking to get a career, a house. A lot of them are now feeling very demotivated, because it's one thing to have high living costs, it's another thing to have almost impossible living costs. Now, I know that there are alternatives, I pointed a few of them out just a minute ago, but not everybody has the desire, want, or ability to do the stuff online that maybe I do or you guys do. Or maybe not everybody can or wants to become a plumber or an electrician. Now, obviously, you might say, well, at that point, beggars can't be choosers. If you don't want to chase the money, then you can't complain. To an extent, I agree. I've always said that the online business route is the way to go. That's why I teach people about eBay selling, link in the bio. It's why I do eBay selling myself. I think it's where things are headed. But with that being said, the caveat for work, I believe, since at least, the 1920s or so, is you go to work for the hope of living. And of course, from about the 1940s and 50s and so on, after World War II, it's even more the case that you come to work and go home to thrive, right? You can build a career, you can build a life, you can have a house, all that sort of stuff. Now, in today's generation, and even in the last generation, right, I don't know many people in our generation whose parents are richer than their parents. Now, yes, of course, that's because they have had like an extra 30 or so years to accumulate the wealth, grandparents that is. But with that being said, there's almost no prospect of this generation of our parents being richer, bar the fact that they are probably going to inherit wealth and assets from their parents, which basically means that the social mobility has not been there, they've just inherited it, right? So what's the point here? The point is, I think this is actually causing a big motivation hit to a lot of younger people my age. And I don't like to necessarily talk up problems, but I think this is undeniable, right? A lot of people in my generation are seeing the fact that they have to go to work not to thrive, and then they're starting to think, okay, so I go to work, I can barely afford my costs. This is not the dream that I've been sold. And what's going to be the effect of that? Well, I think that there's going to be perhaps three effects of that. I think the first one is going to be a set of people who just try and embrace a different lifestyle. Whether that is living in places like the UK or the US where the cost of living is high, but you still have the ability to make something of yourself through different paths. Like I say, people going down the route of being a plumber, an electrician, maybe a truck driver. That's an option, and that can still net you decent results. But then we also have people who want to just live a completely different lifestyle of maybe making money online, traveling the world, moving to a cheaper country, or maybe just making money online and following a different lifestyle. The point is this. We are seeing now in our generation, and older people can deny it, they can say it's not realistic, it's not true, they can call young people lazy. I'm not saying that this is how I feel, I'm just relaying the information that I see to hopefully give some insight. We're living with young people now who are like, well, what's the point? I've done everything that I've been told to do. I'm now 22, 23, 25. I'm still living with my family. The chance of renting is nearly impossible. The chance of buying is basically impossible unless you've got rich parents already who can give. And a lot of people are thinking it's not working. It's not working. So what's the consequence of that? Well, I think the consequence, or one of the consequences of that, is a lot of people are feeling complete demotivation when starting their careers or looking to go to university or get a good job because they're seeing the fact that they won't really be any better off for it. And that's shocking. Now you look at the actual facts and you look at what you can hear from other people. I've heard a lot of people going down the route of, well, maybe they will go down a different life path. It's their intention to move abroad for a easier life, a more chilled life. But I think this is going to be a worrying thing. I am just explaining this. I think this is going to be a problem for this generation, and if things continue at this pace, which they probably will, the next generation even more so. Because we're living in the benefits of the hard work, and therefore don't want to do it. Right? People get out of university and they realise that these high-paying jobs are not guaranteed. They're actually very hard to get. And what's the effect of this? Young people as a whole in this generation seem to, and this is coming from someone who interacts with a lot of people, a lot of young people seem to feel very helpless and like there's no chance of them ever making it. And of course, there are going to be the people who say, right, well, life's hard, so I'm going to embrace it. But when you see no path to exit, a lot of people are going to say, life's hard, what do I do now? All whilst a lot of people are seeing companies making more profits than ever, more money than ever, their employers are making a lot. The gap is widening, right? So if it's already as bad as it is, a lot of young people are going to be thinking, okay, so when I'm the same age as my parents or my grandparents, what does my life look like? What does my life look like? And I know actually this has got a lot of young people worried. It's got a lot of young people confused, and it's going to be interesting to see how this goes. So the whole cost of living crisis, the extremely high rates of rent, the high taxes, the low availability of properties, the extremely high car insurance, food prices, the price of going out for drinks on a Friday, Saturday night. These are from people who work hard and are still not able to enjoy these things as their parents or grandparents could. What is the effect of that going to be? I don't know. But I'm just explaining what the effect on young people is at this point. And I think that is going to be, a lot of people are going to probably go down their own path of trying to try something for themselves. Because if you're stuck living at home with your family anyway, your living costs are going to be a lot lower. And you're probably going to have a lot more free time. So there's going to be those people. There's going to be the people who are willing to work 100 hours a week to free themselves. But that's a whole different story. Anyway, I think it's a really interesting picture what we're seeing in today's day and age. I don't think that hope is over. I think that the dynamic has just changed. And now you can make a lot more money online or in your own business than you ever could before. Maybe that's going to be the route that people go down.